Listen, sometimes in life we think we got people all figured out. We assume if they're not calling, not texting, not knocking at our door, it must mean they don't care. But let me tell you something. Life and love aren't that simple. There are moments when somebody isn't ignoring you at all. They're just fighting a battle inside themselves. And that battle, it's not about you being unworthy. It's about them wrestling with feelings they didn't expect, emotions they can't control, and fears they don't know how to face. You got to understand that when someone is fighting their feelings, they're standing in a crossroads between what's safe and what's real. Safe is easy. It's where you stay in control, where you don't risk your heart. Real is risky. It's where you step into the unknown, where love makes you vulnerable. And trust me, real will scare the life out of some people. So they pull back. They go quiet, not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much. Now, here's the thing. Their silence doesn't mean you've lost value. Too many people make that mistake. They start questioning themselves, thinking, maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I did something wrong. No, what's happening has more to do with the war inside their own heart than anything you did. They're afraid that if they give in to those feelings, they'll lose control. And for some, control is everything. It's their comfort zone, their safety net. But here's where it gets real. You can't spend your life chasing after someone who's still figuring out if they're ready to walk into the fire with you. That's their journey, not yours. You can't force them to be ready. You can't heal the battles they haven't decided to fight yet. Your job is to stand in your truth, keep your dignity, and remember your worth doesn't shrink just because somebody else is scared to love you openly. See, love is not just about two people liking each other. It's about two people being ready at the same time. Timing matters. Readiness matters. You could be the most amazing person they'll ever meet, and they still might hesitate, not because you're lacking, but because they're not ready to handle the depth of what's standing right in front of them. So if someone is fighting their feelings, give them space. Let them sort themselves out. And here's the key. Don't put your life on hold while they figure theirs out. Live, grow, shine, because if it's meant for you, it will meet you when the time is right. And if it's not, you won't have wasted precious years waiting for someone to win a fight they weren't ready to step into. Sometimes love is patient, sometimes it's passionate, and sometimes it's paused. Pause not because the story is over, but because one heart isn't ready to write the next chapter. That's not rejection, that's reality. And the truth is, if they are fighting their feelings now, they might just be preparing for the moment they can love you without fear. But until that day comes, you've got to love yourself enough to keep moving forward. Because real love, the kind worth waiting for, doesn't hide forever. It shows up, it speaks up, and when it's ready, it doesn't just fight its feelings, it fights for you. Silence can be one of the most misunderstood forms of communication in relationships. When someone you care about becomes distant, doesn't call as often, or seems to vanish from the conversations you used to have, it's easy to jump to conclusions. You start thinking they're ignoring you, avoiding you, or even losing interest in you. But the truth is, silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's a sign that the person is processing something deeply personal, something so complex that words can't quite capture it yet. They might be feeling emotions they didn't expect to feel, and that can be overwhelming enough to make them retreat temporarily. It's important to understand that silence has many meanings. Yes, in some cases it could mean disinterest, but not always. There are times when someone is quiet because they care too much. They found themselves in a place where they feel vulnerable, and vulnerability can be terrifying. Maybe they've built walls around their heart for years, convincing themselves that they're safer alone. And then out of nowhere, they meet someone who makes them feel something real, something they can't control, and that shakes them to their core. The easiest way for them to cope in their mind is to take a step back, go quiet, and try to sort through the storm inside. In this way, silence becomes a form of self-protection rather than a sign of rejection. People fight their feelings for many reasons. Perhaps they've been hurt before and are afraid history will repeat itself. Maybe they've been told they're not good enough, or that love always leads to pain. Or it could be that they've never experienced a connection this intense before, and they're not sure if they're capable of handling it. When these emotions collide, their natural instinct might be to pull away, even if deep down they want to move closer. This is why assuming that silence equals rejection can be so damaging, not just to your self-esteem, but also to the relationship. When we take someone's quiet moments personally, we often respond in ways that create more distance. We might lash out, demand answers, or withdraw completely, thinking we're protecting ourselves. In reality, the other person might have needed patience, understanding, and space to work through their emotions. Of course, patience doesn't mean waiting around indefinitely without boundaries. It simply means allowing enough time for clarity to emerge. Sometimes people just need to step back so they can see the bigger picture. They might be figuring out how they feel about you, how ready they are to open up, or whether they can overcome their fears enough to step into something real. Silence, in these cases, is like a pause button, an intermission, not the ending.
This perspective can save you a lot of unnecessary heartache. Instead of immediately assuming the worst, you can remind yourself, this might not be about me at all. That single shift in mindset takes away the power of self-doubt. It keeps you from spiraling into thoughts of inadequacy and allows you to focus on your own emotional balance. It's not about ignoring your feelings, but about refusing to let assumptions control your reality. There's another side to this as well. When someone is silent, it can also be a test of your ability to stand firm in your self-worth. Too often, people become anxious in the face of silence and start overcompensating. They send more messages, try harder to get the other person's attention, and bend themselves into shapes that aren't authentic just to feel secure again. But the truth is, the right connection won't require you to chase it endlessly. If their silence is truly temporary, they will return when they've sorted themselves out. If it's permanent, you'll know without having to exhaust yourself proving your value. Recognizing that silence isn't always rejection allows you to maintain dignity in the face of uncertainty. It gives you the wisdom to differentiate between someone who needs time and someone who's simply not interested. The key is in observing patterns. If silence is followed by genuine reconnection and effort, it's likely a moment of emotional processing. But if it's followed by continued avoidance or half-hearted engagement, it might be time to accept that their role in your life has ended. Understanding this concept also encourages compassion. Relationships, whether romantic, family, or friendships, aren't always smooth. We all have our private battles. Sometimes, giving someone the benefit of the doubt, at least initially, is the most loving thing you can do. That doesn't mean ignoring red flags. It just means not jumping to negative conclusions without understanding the full story. The beauty of patience is that it allows truth to reveal itself. If someone's silence is because they're overwhelmed by how much they feel for you, that will become clear in time. They'll come back, perhaps more ready to be honest and vulnerable. And if their silence was a gentle way of stepping back for good, you'll see that too, and you'll be able to move forward with clarity and self-respect intact. In the end, silence is a language of its own. It speaks volumes, but its meaning isn't always obvious. Sometimes it says, "I'm scared, but I care." Other times it says, "I'm not ready yet." The wisdom lies in knowing that it doesn't always say, "I'm done with you." When you remember that, you free yourself from unnecessary pain and open the door for either deeper connection or graceful closure. Both are gifts. One brings love, the other brings peace. And either way, you win. When someone is fighting their emotions, it's easy to think it's a reflection of who you are or what you've done. You start replaying every conversation, every message, every moment you shared, looking for clues about where things might have gone wrong. But the truth is, their internal battle is rarely about you at all. More often than not, it's about their own fears, insecurities, and past experiences. You could be the most caring, supportive, and genuine person in the world, and they would still hesitate, not because you lack something, but because they haven't made peace with what's going on inside themselves. Everyone carries emotional baggage. For some, it's light. They've learned from the past and are ready to move forward. For others, it's heavy, weighing them down every time they try to take a step towards something new. Maybe they've been betrayed before, and the idea of trusting someone again feels impossible. Maybe they grew up in an environment where love was conditional, so they learned to protect themselves by shutting down their feelings. Or maybe they've been told all their life that vulnerability is weakness, so now when they start to feel deeply, their instinct is to retreat. None of this has anything to do with your worth. It's about the walls they built long before you came into the picture. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is taking responsibility for another person's inner struggle. They think, if I just love them harder, if I'm more patient, more understanding, more perfect, they'll finally open up to me. That sounds noble, but it's dangerous because it can drain you emotionally while making you believe you have the power to fix someone else's wounds. The reality is, only they can decide to face their fears. Only they can choose to heal, and only they can let love in. You can inspire them, support them, and be a safe space, but you cannot fight their battles for them. When you recognize that their hesitation is rooted in their own issues, it changes the way you respond. Instead of feeling rejected, you can feel compassion without losing sight of your boundaries. You understand that they're not pulling back because you're unworthy, but because they're afraid of what stepping forward will cost them emotionally. It's like someone standing at the edge of a cliff. They might want to jump into the water, but fear tells them they'll drown. You can't push them in, and you can't take the leap for them. All you can do is be honest about what you want and where you stand, and let them decide if they're ready to take that risk. Another thing to remember is that sometimes their internal battle has nothing to do with love at all. They might be dealing with stress from work, family conflicts, financial struggles, or personal goals they haven't achieved yet. In their mind, adding deep emotional involvement to that mix feels overwhelming. They're not trying to hurt you, they're just trying to keep themselves together. But when you take their distance personally, you turn their problem into your wound, and that's not fair to either of you. The healthiest approach is to acknowledge their struggle without letting it define your sense of self. You can say, I understand you're dealing with things, but I also need consistency and clarity in my life. That way you show empathy while protecting your own emotional well-being. Because here's the truth. While it's okay to give someone time to work through their fears, it's not okay to sacrifice your peace indefinitely for the hope that they'll change. This is where self-worth plays a huge role. When you truly understand your value, you stop seeing yourself as the cause of someone else's hesitation. You realize that their inability to fully show up in the relationship is about where they are on their own journey, not about whether you deserve love. And this mindset not only protects your heart, but also keeps you from falling into cycles of self-blame. Sometimes when someone is struggling internally, they may even try to push you away to protect you from their chaos. They might think they're doing the right thing by keeping their distance, but the lack of communication can leave you feeling confused. This is why it's important to look at actions and patterns rather than assumptions. If they show signs of care and connection when they're around but withdraw when they feel overwhelmed, that's a clue it's about their inner state, not about you being unimportant. On the flip side, understanding that it's not your fault doesn't mean you have to stick around forever waiting for them to figure it out. It simply means you can walk away without bitterness or resentment if you need to. You can say to yourself, I know I gave love honestly, and I know their struggle is their own. If they're not ready to face it, I can still choose to protect my happiness. That's strength. At the end of the day, their internal battle is theirs alone to fight. You can be supportive without carrying their burden. You can be kind without becoming a savior. And you can care deeply without allowing their fear to chip away at your self-esteem. The most powerful thing you can do is to remember that love should not feel like a constant question mark. When both people are ready, it flows naturally. It doesn't need endless convincing. So when someone is distant, don't let your mind spiral into self-doubt. Remind yourself that their feelings, fears, and readiness are shaped by a lifetime of experiences that existed before you came along. You are not the cause of their hesitation, and you are not the cure for it either. What you are is worthy of a love that meets you fully, without hesitation, without fear, and without the need for you to constantly prove that you deserve it.
Life is too short to spend it waiting on someone who isn't ready to show up for you. That's the heart of the truth behind the idea that you can't wait forever. When you meet someone you feel deeply for, it's natural to want to give them time and space to figure out their feelings. Patience is a beautiful thing until it turns into self-neglect. There's a fine line between being understanding and putting your entire life on pause for someone who might never be ready. Knowing where that line is will protect your peace, your energy, and your dignity. One of the most damaging traps people fall into is believing that if they just wait long enough, the other person will eventually come around. They hold on to promises, hints, or moments of affection, hoping they'll turn into something consistent. But here's the problem. Time alone doesn't change people. Readiness isn't measured in weeks or months. It's measured in personal growth, self-awareness, and willingness to take action. If someone isn't actively working through their fears or taking steps toward being present in the relationship, waiting will only keep you stuck in a loop of uncertainty. Every day you spend waiting for someone else to decide about you is a day you could be investing in yourself. It's a day you could be building your dreams, strengthening your friendships, pursuing your passions, or even meeting someone who is ready for the kind of connection you want. When you put your life on hold, you're not just waiting for them. You're also putting your own happiness on hold. You deserve more than to be a background option in someone else's story while you make them the main character in yours. It's important to understand that giving someone time is not the same as giving them your life. Healthy patience has limits. You can say, I'll give you space to figure things out, while also making it clear that you won't be endlessly available. This isn't about playing games or making ultimatums. It's about valuing yourself enough to know that love should be a mutual effort, not a one-sided wait. There's also the emotional toll to consider. Waiting without progress breeds anxiety, insecurity, and self-doubt. You start to wonder if you're doing something wrong, if you're not attractive enough, interesting enough, or worthy enough. That constant questioning chips away at your confidence until you no longer feel like the strong, vibrant person you were before you met them. And here's the truth. The longer you stay in that place of uncertainty, the harder it becomes to walk away. It's like quicksand. Every extra day you stay, the deeper you sink. The most freeing thing you can do in this situation is set a mental boundary for yourself. It doesn't have to be a fixed number of days or months, but it should be a clear internal decision that you will not sacrifice your future to wait for someone who isn't actively moving toward you. If they're not ready now, and they're not showing signs of working toward readiness, you have every right to move forward with your life without guilt. And let's be real, sometimes people don't even realize how much they're taking you for granted until you stop waiting. The moment you reclaim your time and energy, they're forced to see what life is like without you constantly in the background.
Sometimes that's the wake-up call they need. Other times it simply reveals that they were never going to step up in the first place. Either way, you win. You either get the love you deserve or the clarity to move on. This doesn't mean you have to harden your heart or lose faith in love. It simply means you understand that your time is valuable. Relationships are partnerships, and if you're the only one making emotional investments while the other person hesitates, the balance is off. Love should feel like both people are walking toward each other, not one person standing still while the other keeps closing the gap. It's also worth remembering that waiting too long can close you off to new possibilities. The right person for you might be out there right now, but if you're tied up emotionally with someone who isn't ready, you won't be open to recognizing them when they appear. You'll miss opportunities for connection, joy, and growth because you've committed yourself to a relationship that hasn't even truly started. So the message is simple. Be patient, but be wise. Give people a fair chance, but also give yourself permission to move forward when you see the signs that nothing is changing. Respect their process, but respect your own journey even more. You are not just a placeholder for someone's future readiness. You are a person deserving of love right now, in the present moment. When you stop waiting indefinitely, you take back your power. You start living your life again with purpose and excitement. And the beautiful part is, if that person eventually becomes ready, they can meet you where you are on your path, in your life, while you're already moving forward. But if they don't, you've already built a life so fulfilling that you're not left with regret. In the end, love should not feel like a test of endurance where you're measured by how long you can wait. It should feel like two people choosing each other consistently, willingly, and wholeheartedly. And if that's not what you're experiencing, then the bravest, healthiest thing you can do is step out of the waiting room and start walking toward a future where you are no longer standing still. Real love doesn't hide forever. That's the truth that separates deep, lasting relationships from those built on uncertainty and hesitation. When someone genuinely loves you and is ready to embrace that love, they won't keep it tucked away like a secret. They won't keep you guessing about how they feel or make you constantly search for signs. Real love makes itself known. It shows up, it speaks up, and it makes an effort to be present, not just in words, but in consistent actions. One of the most powerful signs of true love is the willingness to fight for the relationship. Life will always bring challenges, differences in personality, long distances, financial struggles, family opinions, or personal fears. But when the love is real, those challenges don't push people apart permanently. Instead, they inspire both people to find solutions, compromise, and work through the hard moments together. Real love says, "I'm here. I'm choosing you," even when the situation isn't perfect. The thing about love that hides is that it leaves you in a state of constant doubt. You're left wondering if the connection is as real as you think it is, or if you're just holding on to something that exists only in your mind. That uncertainty can drain you emotionally, making you overanalyze every conversation and every gesture. But when love is genuine and ready, you won't have to live in that mental tug-of-war. It will be clear because the person will make sure you know where you stand in their life. This doesn't mean real love is loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, but it's steady. It's in the daily check-ins, the way they make time for you even on their busiest days, the way they prioritize you in their life without you having to ask. You don't have to chase it or force it, because it naturally flows toward you. The difference between someone who's fighting their feelings and someone who's ready to love is that the latter doesn't let fear stop them from showing up. They might still have doubts and insecurities. Everyone does, but they choose to face them rather than hide behind them. It's important to recognize that readiness is a key part of love. A person can have strong feelings for you but still not be ready to express them fully. That's why some relationships get stuck in a cycle of almost commitment. But when someone reaches the point of readiness, everything changes. They start taking intentional steps toward building a future with you. They stop retreating when things get serious. They open up, communicate, and allow themselves to be vulnerable because they know love can't thrive behind walls. This is why waiting for love that's hiding can be so exhausting. If a person is constantly pulling away, they're not in a place where they can give you the stability and security you deserve. And the hard truth is, love that hides too long risks fading altogether. Relationships need momentum. Without it, feelings can become overshadowed by frustration, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. But when love is real and ready, it grows stronger over time, even in the face of challenges. You can often tell the difference by looking at consistency. Someone who is ready to love you will be consistent in their words and actions. They won't tell you one thing and do another. They won't disappear for days or weeks without explanation. They won't keep you wondering if you're a priority. Instead, they'll communicate openly, show up when it matters, and be willing to put in the effort to maintain the connection. Another sign of real love is that it doesn't make you compromise your self-worth. You don't have to beg for attention or affection because the other person gives it freely. You don't have to earn their commitment because they choose to give it without being pressured. When someone loves you for real, they want to make sure you feel valued, secure, and supported. They don't see you as an option. They see you as their person. Of course, no relationship is perfect, and even real love will have its moments of struggle. But the difference is that when both people are invested, they see those struggles as temporary obstacles, not permanent roadblocks. They fight for each other, not against each other. And they never make you doubt whether you're wanted in their life. The reason it's so important to understand that real love shows up is because it helps you avoid settling for less. Too many people accept half-hearted affection or inconsistent effort because they convince themselves that deep down the other person cares. But deep down isn't enough. Love has to live on the surface too. It has to be felt, seen, and experienced in real ways. Otherwise, it's just potential, and potential isn't the same as reality. When you finally experience real love, you understand why waiting too long for someone who hides their feelings is a risk. You realize how freeing it is to be with someone who makes you feel certain, who chooses you without hesitation, and who stands beside you no matter what. That's the kind of love worth investing in, the kind that not only feels strong but proves it through action. At the end of the day, love that hides forever isn't love that's ready to build a life with you, but love that's real, present, and committed. Doesn't just fight its feelings, it fights for you, the relationship, and the future you can create together. And when you find that kind of love, you don't have to chase it, question it, or beg for it. You simply recognize it, receive it, and grow with it, because it's already standing right in front of you, fully and unapologetically there.